let's take a few minutes and review the 10 principles of servant leadership. Principles, they're ideals, they're values, they're things that lend to and guide your behavior. So let's take a quick look at each of these 10 principles. And you might see yourself strong in 3 to 5 of these things. Now, nobody is perfect because we live and operate in this human condition. But as we go through these, please identify where you see yourself in servant leadership, and then also identify where you want to grow, what you can work on. Okay, so the first one, and probably the most important, is that of listening. When we listen, truly listen, something beautiful happens. We are communicating without saying a word. That's the key piece there, that we care. And when we care, people then can build trust. And trust is the threshold of servant leadership. So listening, truly listening, is just simply listening to learn. It is not to reply. It is not to respond. It's not to pause just long enough to form a rebuttal. Listening is truly learning. It's acknowledging and respecting another person's perspective and validating their words. I love the quote, "A wise person knows that there's something to be learned from everyone." And as a servant leader, that is something that is just buried in our hearts, that everybody has an important role and an important message. Next up, empathy. Okay, well, you can imagine being a strong listener often leans on empathy and vice versa. Empathy is being aware of others' feelings, not just being aware of them, but acting appropriately. Are you able to stand in someone else's shoes and look at the world through their lens? If so, can you acknowledge that shared experience? Reflect back to that person what you heard and listen without judgment. Sympathy is, "I feel really bad you have a cold." Empathy is, "Oh my goodness, I had that same cold last week. It is miserable. Let's get you some orange juice and airborne and all the things." Our third principle is healing. And I absolutely love this piece of servant leadership. Healing. Your goal is to help others become whole. So think back to when you were a kid. My mom was a nurse, so healing was a big piece of her servant leadership. No lie, she would give us a bell when we were really sick. Her desire was for us to heal, to become well. And that is at the heart of every servant leader, that we want those around us whole and well. And when we serve them, we heal. So envision your mom bringing you the bell, the Sprite on ice, the soda crackers when your stomach's upset, snuggling you into that blanket on the couch. That is a beautiful representation of the healing we aim to do in the workplace. Now, in this day and age, much of that healing is mental health, as well as physical health challenges, but servant leaders care about the entire person. Next, we have awareness. Now, awareness and empathy and healing, you can see how many of these work in tandem. Awareness is really your emotional intelligence. Are you aware first of yourself? Okay. Do you see yourself in an accurate light? Are you able to understand your strengths without conceit, as well as your shortcomings without shame? Okay. Personally, how aware are you? And then how do you manage that? So the emotional intelligence of awareness is, okay, this is what I see, and therefore I act accordingly. And you can see the social ramifications of this. If we are aware of self, we can then be aware of how we impact others and manage those relationships accordingly. So awareness is understanding self, and it's understanding the impact you have on others and using that honestly and ethically. This level of awareness, some leaders have turned this into toxicity, where they leverage their impact and coerce. We as servant leaders use our awareness to manage ourselves and then do our best to manage our relationship with others. Okay, next is persuasion. Now, we don't often think of persuasion as a pinnacle of servant leadership, so let's just wrestle with this idea for a second. Your persuasion is your influence. Persuasion is not coercion. It is not strong-arming somebody. It is influencing. And influencers create change, but a servant influencer does that in a gentle, non-judgmental way. If we think of the persuasion Jesus Christ had in his 30 odd years on earth, it was a very gentle, follow me style of persuasion that changed lives and hearts from then until eternity. So persuasion is rooted in truth. It's rooted in social responsibility that you are persuading for the common good. And then authenticity. I think this is so key. People are very leery. We have a very strong BS meter in today's society. And then equity as well as respect. These are the pinnacles of true and honest influence. Next, number 6, conceptualization. Conceptualization is that ability to conceptualize, okay, meaning to understand the big picture. Now, some people are very imaginative. Some people are strong visionaries. My husband is excellent at conceptualization. He can dream up a business concept where I am more the actualizer. He conceptualizes, and then I put it into chunks in the form of an actual business plan. But servant leaders are conceptual. They're clever. They're creative. They think beyond the here and now. Number 7 then is foresight, which is a byproduct of conceptualization. Now, when I think of foresight, I think of all the great dad saves, okay? That line drive coming into the stands. Dad flips his arm up, stops that bat or ball from smashing the child's head. That is the same type of foresight we hope to carry as servant leaders. The ability to see and predict what is coming based off the environment and also the past, okay? It is said that leaders are thermostats, not thermometers. They adjust the temperature. They don't just simply report what the temperature is. And I think that's a great representation of foresight. Number 8, we have 3 more. Stewardship. Okay, stewardship is this careful and special responsibility. If you think of planting a tree, the old phrase, what's the best day to plant a tree? Yesterday. What's the second best day? Today, right? Forward thinking about the future in terms of generations and the environment and the mission your organization holds. Stewardship is careful leadership that is serving the here and now, but has a focus on the beyond, the greater good. Next, number 9, commitment to the growth of people. Looking at our employees, our followers from an intrinsic lens, not just simply what they can accomplish to serve the bottom line, but the value they bring to the organization and the world as a whole. When we use phrases like we're walking in our gifts, that is a byproduct of people being committed to the growth of others. Our quote says, commitment is an act, not a word. Now, for those of you who are in a relationship or a marriage, this is never more true. Commitment, yes, you commit when you get married, but the rubber hits the road every day beyond that, when you get up and you love and serve and care for somebody more than yourself. And number 10, building community. And as you can imagine, this is consequential of servant leader pillars or principles. Building a community, something that is greater than that good or service you create. So building community, it's what you care about, right? It's what matters, ideals, values. It's those daily practices and that shared responsibility that we are all working for something beyond us and for the greater good. It's when your followers identify with something beyond themselves. So for me to say, my name is Liz Carlson and I'm a professor at University of Sioux Falls. A simple introduction like that is indicating that I look at that role as part of me, part of what I do in my community. Okay, folks, so we just covered our 10 principles of servant leadership. Hopefully this will give you just a little bit more insight with some very simple examples.